So now joined by former Labour Party spokesman James Matthewson to talk about Keir Starmer's big pledges. His pledge card that's not a pledge card, it's a card with pledges on. Can everyone please keep up at the back? James Matthewson, thanks for joining us. What's the difference between a pledge card and a card with pledges on? First question. Is there a difference?
You tell us. I don't think anybody in Labour headquarters knows.
What would you most liken this to? Is it 1997 Tony Blair and Gordon Brown's pledge card with 5 pledges, very specific pledges, by the way, or is it closer to Ed Miliband's headstone in 2015, which looked like, frankly, a headstone in a cemetery?
Well, let's hope it's not that one, because that's in a museum now, I think, for political failure. So we don't want to relive that tragedy again.
This is, I mean, it's very presidential. It's a picture of very serious and very sort of, you know, I'm going to get things
Sleeves
done.
rolled up.
Sleeves rolled up, Keir Starmer. I have to be honest with you, he's put a bit more timber on since this photo. Let's be honest, there's been a few more coronation chicken suppers. My first steps for change, not ours, not Labour's, my, it's all about Keir. Number 1, deliver economic stability. I thought they were going to deliver economic growth. Wasn't that what he pledged at the beginning of last year?
That was the idea, and I mean, I think this is a strange one to lead with. This fear that hangs over the Labour Party obsesses them at the moment, which is all about economic and fiscal credibility.
Yeah.
The whole point is that they're meant to have made that case already, and that now that's why the polls have shifted the way they have, because they're hoping that people will now say, well, OK, Rachel Reeves has delivered her message, she's responsible, it's not the Labour Party of the past, and they get over that message.
It's not Jeremy
Corbyn. They hope that's the idea, but then obviously putting it at the top of the list just feels a little bit like hammering home the obvious. But
also it's just like, I mean, is that all we're going to get? Not growth, not, you know, just economic stability, gee, thanks. Cut NHS waiting times, doesn't say by when, by how much, how they're going to do that.
And one thing they have specifically, which is quite nice to see, I think, is the number of places that they're going to create. They've been quite specific with
jobs.
That. So they've said, well, this is the jobs and the appointments that they're going to free up as well. So I think it's is it 40,000 more appointments? So they're going to say that
only got the card. Only got the card
specifically from that policy. Right. So the idea of
do you think there's more detail there?
From non-dom status. So they've even said how they're going to fund it, which is the non-dom status, which obviously makes Rishi Sunak incredibly uncomfortable to talk about as well.
Yeah, because his wife previously had that status again, outrageously, I would say. Launch a new border security command. We've already got a new border security command, and by the way, that ain't working either. I mean, again, you could. A lot of this is about we're going to do this as opposed to what we want to achieve. Now, at least when Rishi Sunak said, I'm going to stop the boats. Now, he's not stopped the boats. He won't stop the boats. But people aren't as much. They want to know how you're going to do something and when you're going to do it by, and what you're actually planning to achieve. But that's just launching a new border security command isn't actually achieving something. It's just a means to an end. But the question is, what's the end? Because my concern about Labour on the immigration issue is, my God, the Tories are awful on it. Labour will be worse. You guys basically believe in an open border policy.
Well, I mean, the framing of this, I think on the pledge card, the wording is the issue. If you look into the detail of what he's proposed, and he's done a lot of this in the Mirror today, because that's where he's gone to propose this. And obviously, what he said is specifically, and I'm quite pleased with this, is because it's different to the Tories, is about targeting the gangs and the infrastructure
no one's thought
that allows this to happen.
No one's thought of that before.
No, but this is rather than the Tories using the rhetoric to attack the victims of this system.
Victims of this system, the British taxpayers.
The victims of this system.
No, they're not. They're customers.
No, they're not customers.
They're customers.
They're
in a safe country in France, and then they pay someone to illegally enter our country.
They're in a vulnerable position.
Why are they vulnerable? They're in France.
They're vulnerable, and they're in a vulnerable position. They've been taken advantage of by people smugglers. You nipped that at the butt, and you managed to tackle the issues.
Those people smugglers are stealing the $3,000 out of their wallets, are they?
Of course they're not. But of course, if you're in a situation that's so desperate,
they're not desperate. They're in France.
They're in this situation.
I'm desperate to get to France.
Well, you could go.
I'm always desperate to get to France.
Of course you can. But of course, the situation with these people is that we tackle the issue at its source and then deal with it. So
you get rid of the gangs.
I'm quite pleased.
You get rid of the gangs. You can get rid of every single person involved in those dinghies right now.
If it's a free market economy, then that gets rid of the market, doesn't it?
And next Monday, another load of people will provide that service because there's £1 million a week to be made. Come on.
It's tackling it at the source.
All right, you do that. We'll see how well that works. Number 4, set up Great British Energy. And?
Yeah, I mean, again, the detail of this, if you look at the detail in the policy proposal, Great British Energy, publicly owned energy company, controlled by our country, because for too long people, I mean, I remember even you saying talking about, you know,
I love that. Even you
were talking, Julia. Even you were talking about energy companies being owned by China, by the French, power stations being owned. This is about British ones being a British owned, and even better,
British owned, brilliant. What difference is that going to make to my heating bill?
Even better, it will be owned and delivered in Scotland, and that's a really good, important
Listen, what difference is it going to make? I don't care who owns things, really. I want to know what effect
I don't remember you
has on
saying
my
that when you were bothered about, Chinese-owned power stations.
But it's not policy. It's not like, oh, I'm going to elect a government because of who's going to be owning EDF this week. I mean, come on. OK, the next one, number 5, crackdown on antisocial behaviour. My God, I've heard about this for 40 years.
Yeah. Yeah, and again...
How?
Well, the policy
haven't
behind
got any prison
this
spaces. What are we going to do?
Says, and that's another thing I think that's been left out here and that needs to be talked about, justice reform. Justice reform is important. But they are talking about neighbourhood policing coming back, and my God, that's needed.
No,
because you need to deliver that on the ground and build those relationships.
Number 6 is recruit 6,500 new teachers. That is a very specific policy. Again, you'll probably have to raise wages to do that.
No, it's coming from a tax on private schools, which is long overdue.
Yeah, but you still actually have to find the extra people who want to be teachers. That's one of the key things,
because teaching at the moment is horrendous because of Ofsted and all the rest of it. So you need to be able to reform the whole system. So
well,
I'm
still
quite pleased with that.
OK, you reckon this is good now? I'm going to see. The key thing is, for me, housing missing, defence spending missing. There's lots of things that are missing from this. Yeah. Of course, this isn't the full offer. This isn't the full offer. Is this going to be the game changer, though? Because actually, looking at some analysts this morning pointing out that actually even Tony Blair's pledge card, which was, seen in sort of like a godlike role, that actually it doesn't actually change how people vote. It's not a vote winner necessarily.
No, I think it's a start, and I think it's a start and pestle on that campaign, and I think it's an opportunity for them to talk about these things. That's all it is. Because again, they can't say this is the full offer because it's nowhere near the full offer. You're talking about housing, you're talking about business strategy, you're talking about everything, public transport.
I would have housing in my top 5 pledges. I think any political party, and I include the Tories in this, if you do not have housing as one of your top 5 pledges, it's one of the key issues in the economy and for people's ability to, have as many children as they want, move for a job. It would create a huge number of job opportunities.
But even government departments that they need to run, there are more than 6. So, when you talk about this, there's so many offers that need to be delivered.
Philip Ingram, and on this, has James convinced you?
No, not all. The NHS one is England only. That's not the whole of the UK. The National Crime Agency are already targeting the organised crime groups with Europol and Interpol and are working with the other intelligence agencies and counter-terror police and all the rest of it and border force.
And also, it doesn't include your personal space station that you were asking for.
Well, exactly.
James, if there was one pledge, James, that anyone could make to you that would make you give them your vote, what would it be?
Oh, Craig, I think, to be honest, it's a reform of the justice system.
That's the key
prisons in this country. For me, it's in a horrendous state.
Right. James, great to have you in the studio. Thank you so much for joining us. Really interesting.